My name is Connor Reese. I'm 23. I live on the 7th floor of a brick building in Capitol Hill, Denver. If this ever gets posted and the date is after December 2025, look for a missing person report with my name on it. The police will probably say I jumped, overdosed, or just walked away. They're wrong. It didn't let me leave. It wore my best friend like a coat and then came back for the rest of us. This is everything. Every single second I can still remember. We left Denver on a Thursday in late October, the kind of perfect fall day that makes you feel invincible. Tyler was driving his beat-up 2016 Subaru Outback with the cracked taillight he kept promising to fix next weekend. Jake rode shotgun, navigating with an actual paper map because he refuses to update his phone. Marcus and I were in the back with the cooler on our laps, screaming early 2000s pop-punk at the top of our lungs while the mountains blurred past. We were heading to Black Canyon of the Gunnison for one last blowout before life scattered us. Tyler moving to Seattle in 9 days for some startup that paid in stock options and cold brew, Jake secretly carrying an engagement ring he was terrified to give his girlfriend, Marcus running from another situationship, and me just trying to pretend we weren't already turning into the adults we swore we'd never become. We hit the South Rim entrance station right as the sun bled out behind the mesas. The ranger who checked us in was young, maybe 25, Navajo, name tag K. Bigay. He took one look at our backcountry permit and his face went completely still. "You're camping at Painted Wall Backcountry Site 4? "Yeah, man," Tyler grinned. "Why, is it haunted or something?" Bigay didn't smile. "We've had reports the last 3 weeks. Hikers hearing their names called. Voices that sound exactly like someone they love, coming from the trees. If you hear anything like that, do not answer. Do not follow the voice. Pack your gear and hike out immediately." Tyler leaned over the console and whispered in his best horror movie rasp, "Ranger, come into the dark." Marcus and Jake lost it laughing. I laughed too, but something cold crawled up my spine. Bigay just stared at us for a long second, handed over the permit and said, "Keep your fire big, and whatever you do, don't answer." The hike in was 4 miles of brutal switchbacks that drop almost 2,000 vertical feet into a canyon so narrow the sky looks like someone sliced it open with a razor blade. Our site was a flat shelf of dirt and pine needles 30 yards from the rim, ringed by twisted junipers and a silence so complete you could hear blood rushing in your own ears. We set up 2 tents, me and Jake in one, Tyler and Marcus in the other, hung the bear bag on a half-dead limb 15 feet up that creaked ominously, and built a fire the size of a small car because Tyler insisted the bigger the fire, the fewer the monsters. We drank until the stars smeared together, retold every embarrassing story we'd collected since freshman year, roasted marshmallows until they caught fire, and finally passed out smelling like smoke, sweat, and cheap bourbon. I woke up at 2:47 a.m., needing to piss so badly my teeth hurt. The fire had collapsed into a bed of coals that pulsed like dying hearts. I crawled out of the tent, stood up to unzip, and that's when the canyon spoke with Tyler's voice. "Connor, dude, come here." It came from down the trail we'd hiked in on, maybe 60 yards back, hidden in the black between the trees. Tyler's exact lazy, half-drunk drawl, the little laugh he always tacks on when he's trying to talk you into something stupid at 3 a.m. "Tyler, quit screwing around," I whispered. My voice cracked like I was 13 again. "Come on, bro. You gotta see this. It's fucking hilarious." Jake's headlamp snapped on behind me. "You heard it too." We both stared at the other tent. Tyler was still zipped inside. I could see the slow rise and fall of his sleeping bag and hear the little whistle snort he does right before a full snore. Jake mouthed, "Echo?" But echoes don't giggle like they're standing right behind you with warm breath on the back of your neck. We sat awake in the dark until the sky turned the color of dirty dishwater. Morning was too bright, too ordinary. Tyler woke up laughing at us, called us paranoid stoners, swore the canyon was basically Dolby Atmos for ghosts. Marcus had slept through everything and told us to grow a pair. Jake and I tried to laugh it off, but every time the wind moved through the trees, we flinched like someone had cocked a gun. We spent the day doing the Gunnison route, 800 feet of chains bolted into sheer granite, the kind of hike that makes your balls crawl up into your throat. By the time we scrambled back out, we were sunburned, dehydrated, shaking, and euphoric. We grilled ribeyes thicker than my wrist, drank the good bourbon, and for a few golden hours, everything felt bulletproof again. Then the sun dropped behind the rim like someone slammed a lid on the world, and the temperature fell 20 degrees in minutes, and the second wave started. It began with my mom. My mom died of breast cancer when I was 16. I still have 3 voicemails of hers saved on an old phone I can't bring myself to delete. The voice that drifted out of the trees behind our tents was hers, soft, trembling, exactly how she sounded the night she told me she was scared. Connor. Sweetheart, I fell. I think my leg is broken. I need you, baby. Please come quick. I was standing before I felt my legs move. The bottle slipped from my fingers and shattered against a rock. Jake grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave purple fingerprints. "That is not your mom," he hissed. "Connor, look at me. That is not her." Marcus stumbled out in nothing but boxers and one sock, hair sticking up like he'd been electrocuted. "Tell me you assholes are not doing this." Tyler stepped out last, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What the hell is—" The thing answered him in his own voice, 20 feet behind us now, close enough we should have seen a silhouette in the firelight. "Tyler, buddy, come here. Just real quick, I gotta show you something sick." Tyler went the color of old milk. His mouth opened, no sound came out. Then it used Jake's little sister Emily. Emily, who OD'd on fentanyl-laced pills 2 years ago. Her voice was small, broken, 8 years old again. "Jakey, I'm so cold. Why didn't you save me? Please come get me." Jake made this sound I will hear in my grave, half sob, half scream, and took 3 steps toward the darkness. Tyler and I tackled him to the ground. He fought like a man drowning, screaming her name, tears and snot streaking his face. We dragged him back to the fire while the thing laughed in Emily's little girl voice, high, cruel, and so wrong. That's when we saw it fully for the first time. The fire flared, wind or something worse, and the thing stepped halfway into the light. It was tall, 7 or 8 feet, naked, skin the color of a drowned corpse stretched too tight over bones that didn't fit right. Limbs too long, joints bending backward like a dog trying to stand upright. Its face was Tyler's, but the mouth split past the ears, black drool stringing from teeth like broken glass. The eyes were just wet black pits reflecting the flames. It tilted Tyler's head and smiled too wide. "Hey guys, missed me?" Then it opened its mouth wider than should have been possible, and Tyler's voice came out backwards, like a tape played in reverse, then snapped forward again. "Run!" We ran. We didn't pack properly. We just grabbed headlamps and ran. Tents left standing, cooler abandoned, steaks still sizzling on the grill. 4 grown men sprinted down a mountain trail in pitch dark like the devil was behind us. It was. It ran parallel in the trees, sometimes on 2 legs, sometimes 4. Tyler's hyena laugh echoing from every direction at once. My headlamp caught it full on once. Tyler's face melting off like hot wax, revealing something gray and wet and eyeless underneath before the skin slid back into place with a wet sucking pop. It kept perfect pace without ever making a footstep sound, just rustling, wet breathing, and that constant giggling. Half a mile from the car, it started using my own voice. "Connor, wait up. It's me. It's Tyler. I'm hurt bad, man. Don't leave me." I stumbled and almost pitched over the edge into the canyon. Jake yanked me back by my pack strap, screaming at me to keep moving. We burst into the parking lot as the sky turned bruise purple. Tyler's car was the only one there. We threw ourselves inside and he floored it, gravel pinging off the undercarriage like bullets. In the rearview mirror, I saw it standing at the tree line, still wearing Tyler's face, waving goodbye with a hand that had far too many knuckles. We thought concrete and streetlights would save us. Saturday, we holed up in my apartment, ordered enough Thai food to feed a frat, drank until we blacked out in a pile on my living room floor. Jake kept whispering Emily's name in his sleep. Marcus stared at the ceiling like it might open up and swallow him. Sunday, Tyler started acting normal again, too normal. He made pancakes shaped like dicks, blasted old pop punk, joked about wearing a tinfoil hat to his first day in Seattle. Around 11 p.m., he said he needed air and stepped onto my balcony to smoke a joint. I woke at 3:14 a.m. to the soft click of my front door closing. Tyler was gone. Phone on the coffee table, wallet in his jeans draped over the couch, one shoe by the door, the other missing. Search and rescue found his blood-soaked t-shirt 2 days later on barbed wire near the airport, 15 miles away. Not enough blood to kill him. Just enough to mean something carried him off still breathing. They called off the search yesterday. I've been alone since. First night I heard scratching at the window, 7th floor. Then Tyler's laugh on the balcony. I left every light burning. Last night the laughing stopped. At 3:07 a.m. my phone buzzed. Text from Tyler's number, the one sitting in an evidence bag downtown. "Let me in, Connor. It's cold out here." 3 soft knocks, then harder, then claws dragging down the wood. It's been at my door 7 hours now. Sometimes it whispers in Tyler's voice, wet and thick, like he's speaking around a mouthful of meat. "I can smell your fear, bro. Tastes like pennies." Sometimes my mom begging, sometimes Emily crying. Once it used my own voice telling me it's safe, that it's just Tyler. He's hurt. Open the door. The chain is still on, but the deadbolt is splintering. There's a new smell under the pine and blood, wet dog, old pennies, and something sweet like rotting meat left in the sun. It just stopped whispering. It's listening. The chain snapped 20 seconds ago. Footsteps in the hallway, slow, barefoot, wet. It's inside. I'm not alone anymore. If anyone reads this, don't come looking. And whatever you do, if something calls your name in a voice you love, don't answer. I'm posting this now. My name is Ethan Caldwell. I'm 34. 3 nights ago, I carried my 6-year-old daughter's body down a mountain in a blue tarp, while the thing that had been wearing my wife's skin stood in the tree line and watched me with black, lidless eyes. I'm writing this from a Super 8 off I-70 with the curtains duct-taped shut, every light in the room on, a kitchen knife under my pillow, and the Gideon Bible open to a random page because I'm terrified to close my eyes. The police have my truck, my blood-soaked clothes, and a statement that makes me sound like a lunatic. They think I murdered my family. They're wrong. The thing that did, it has been living in my house for months, maybe longer, and I was too busy, too tired, too stupidly in love to notice the seams starting to show. We needed the trip. That's what Sarah kept saying for weeks, like a mantra. Work had been crushing me 12 hours a day. Maya had started kindergarten teacher, had sent home 3 separate notes about concerning drawings of a tall, faceless woman, and Sarah and I hadn't had sex, hadn't even kissed with any real hunger, in so long I couldn't remember the last time. When she showed me the listing for a tiny off-grid A-frame on a private lake outside Ouray, no neighbors, no cell service, just us and the snow and the quiet, I booked it the same night without even looking at the price. Friday, November 7th. We left Denver at dawn. Maya sang every song from Frozen in the back seat, kicking her little boots against my seat in perfect rhythm. Sarah rode shotgun with her bare feet on the dash, hand resting on my thigh the whole drive, humming along, giving me that sideways smile that still turned me inside out after 11 years together. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones sharper than I remembered, skin almost translucent in the morning light, but happy. I told myself the mountains would fix whatever was broken. The cabin was everything the photos promised. Cedar walls that smelled like pencil shavings and Christmas trees, huge south-facing windows looking over a half-frozen lake ringed by black pines dusted white, a loft bedroom for us, a curtained alcove with twin beds for Maya, a wood stove that threw heat like a furnace, no landline, no Wi-Fi, 1 bar of service that died the second you stepped off the porch. Perfect isolation. The first day was medicine. We hiked the half-mile loop trail, boots crunching fresh powder. Maya squealed every time snow slid off a branch and showered her. We built 3 crooked snowmen with pine cone eyes and carrot noses that kept falling off. That night, the northern lights came out, green and violet curtains rippling across the stars, and Maya fell asleep on the couch wedged between us while Sarah stroked her curls and sang the lullaby she's sung since Maya was a newborn. "Hush, little baby. Don't you cry." I stood in the doorway watching them, fire popping behind me, and thought maybe, just maybe, we were finally going to be okay again. I should have known something was wrong even then. Night 1. I woke around 2:15 a.m., needing water. The loft was cold. The fire downstairs had burned low. Sarah wasn't beside me. I figured bathroom or stoking the stove. I padded down the creaky stairs in socks. The living room was lit only by the red glow of embers. I whispered her name. Nothing. Then the front door sighed open on its own. She slipped back inside barefoot, wearing only my old faded Marine's hoodie, hair dripping wet and clinging to her neck like she'd been out in the snow for minutes, not seconds. Snowflakes still clung to her lashes and melted on her cheeks. Her skin was ice when I touched her arm. "Jesus, Sarah, you'll freeze to death." "Couldn't sleep," she rasped, voice raw like she'd been screaming into the wind. "Went to look at the lake. It's so quiet out there you can hear your own blood moving." For half a heartbeat, the dying firelight caught her eyes, and they were completely black. No whites, no iris, just wet oil reflecting the coals. Then she blinked slowly, and they were brown again. I told myself it was a trick of the light. We went back to bed. She curled into me like always, but her body stayed cold for hours, like something dragged up from the lake bottom. Saturday, we woke to almost a foot of fresh snow. Maya was over the moon, face pressed to the window, squealing about snowman armies. Sarah helped roll the bases, but moved like someone underwater, eyes fixed on the distant tree line like she was waiting for a signal only she could see. Around noon, Maya started complaining her tummy hurt. By 2, she was burning up, 103.2 on the little ear thermometer. We dosed her with children's Tylenol and tucked her into the alcove with her stuffed orca and 3 blankets. That afternoon, Sarah kept drifting to the big windows. Not casual glances. She'd stand motionless for 10-15 minutes at a time, palms flat against the cold glass, staring into the pines like something out there was staring back. I asked if she was okay 4 separate times. Every single time she turned, gave me the same thin smile, and answered word for word. "Just tired, babe." At dusk, Maya woke up crying that her legs hurt, like growing pains, but worse. We told ourselves it was just the fever. Sarah carried her to the couch, wrapped her in the big quilt, stroked her hair the way she always does when Maya's sick. I made canned chicken soup and grilled cheese cut into tiny triangles the way Maya likes. We ate in near silence while the wind rattled the windows and the lake outside turned the color of old pewter. Then Maya looked up at Sarah with glassy fever eyes and whispered, "Mommy, why are you wearing Mommy's face?" Sarah's hand froze mid-stroke, just for a heartbeat, but I saw it. Then she laughed, too sharp, too loud in the quiet cabin, and said, "Silly goose, who else would I be?" Maya didn't smile. She whispered, "The tall lady outside was wearing your face last night. She stood by my window and told me to be quiet or she'd get hungry." I told myself it was fever delirium. Kids say terrifying shit when they're sick. We put Maya back to bed early. Sarah tucked her in, sang the lullaby softer than usual, kissed her forehead. I stood in the doorway watching, trying to ignore how Sarah's shadow on the wall looked too tall, too thin, arms too long, like something stretched on a rack. I fell asleep on the couch waiting for Sarah to come back down. I woke to the front door standing wide open and snow blowing across the pine floor in ghostly ribbons. The fire was almost dead. Maya was still in her alcove, but Sarah was gone. I grabbed the mag light and ran outside in just socks and boxers. Barefoot prints, Sarah's exact size, led from the porch straight toward the frozen lake, then simply stopped 20 feet out, like the snow had swallowed her mid-step. I screamed her name until my throat bled. Only the wind answered, carrying that lullaby back to me from the trees, slow and wrong. When I stumbled back inside, Maya was sitting bolt upright in bed, blanket pooled around her waist, staring down the short hallway that leads to the spare back bedroom. "Daddy," she whispered, voice tiny and cracked. "Mommy's in there, but she's not walking right. She's just standing." The hallway light was off. I flicked it on. Sarah stood at the far end facing away from us, perfectly still, head tilted at an angle no human neck should hold without snapping. She was humming the lullaby, but slowed down to a crawl, each note dragging like a dying animal. "Sarah?" She turned, slowly. Her neck made soft, wet clicking sounds, vertebrae shifting one by one like someone turning a combination lock. Her smile stretched too wide, lips thinning until they almost disappeared, revealing too many teeth. Maya started crying, small, broken, terrified sounds that cut straight through me. Sarah's head snapped toward the sound with inhuman speed. Her eyes were solid black again, reflecting the hallway light like wet obsidian. She blinked once, deliberately, and they were brown. "Time for more medicine," she said in Sarah's voice, but flat, like a recording played at the wrong speed. She walked past me, no footfalls on the wood floor, and scooped Maya up. Maya screamed, high and thin, kicking weakly with fever-weak legs. I took one step. "Put her down, now!" Sarah looked at me, and her face rippled, skin shifting like something large was testing the seams from the inside. Then it stopped. She smiled Sarah's smile. "She needs rest, Ethan." She carried Maya toward the back bedroom and closed the door in my face with deliberate slowness. I stood frozen, listening to Maya's muffled crying get quieter and quieter until it stopped completely. 23 minutes later, Sarah came out alone. Her hands were wet, flecked red at the cuticles. She was humming the lullaby again, softer, almost tender. "She threw up," she said. "She's finally asleep." I pushed past her. The back bedroom was empty. Window cracked open 6 inches, snow drifting in across the sill. Small bloody handprints, Maya's, smeared on the inside of the glass like she'd tried to climb out, and something had pulled her back. I ran outside screaming Maya's name until my voice gave out and my lungs burned with cold. I found her 43 yards from the cabin under a stand of pines, face down in snow turned crimson. Her little purple coat was shredded to ribbons. Her throat was just gone, a wet red cavity where it used to be. I rolled her over, and she was still warm. Sarah's voice drifted from the darkness behind me, soft, almost loving. "She was making too much noise, Ethan. It gets so hungry when they make noise." I turned. Sarah stood barefoot in the snow 20 feet away, head tilted wrong, smiling with a mouth that had too many teeth and no lips left at all. I charged her. She let me get within arm's reach, then her right arm blurred and claws raked fire across my chest and face. I hit the snow hard, blood in my mouth, vision tunneling. When the world stopped spinning, she was crouched over me, face inches away. Her breath smelled like pine needles, wet dog, and old pennies. "I tried to keep it quiet," she whispered in Sarah's voice, but the words came out layered, like two people speaking at once. "But you both kept asking questions." Her face began to slough away like wet tissue paper, revealing gray stretched muscle and black pits where eyes should be. It opened Sarah's mouth impossibly wide, jaws unhinging with a wet pop, and rows of needle teeth unfolded like a trap. It lunged. I woke at dawn half buried in snow with 4 gashes across my chest, still pumping blood, and Sarah's wedding ring clenched in my fist like I'd torn it off her finger in the struggle. The cabin door stood open. A single set of bloody barefoot prints led away into the trees and never came back. I wrapped Maya in the tarp from the woodpile and carried her down the mountain because I couldn't leave her for the coyotes or whatever else is out there. The police think I did it. I know what the evidence looks like. But if you're reading this, you know the truth. If you ever see a woman on a dark mountain road with long black hair and a smile that stretches too wide, don't slow down. And if she calls you babe in the voice you used to fall asleep to, floor it. The humming is right outside the door now. If this post ends mid-sentence, you know why. I'm 28 now, but this happened when I was 8, the summer of 2005, on my Uncle Ray's cattle ranch 30 miles outside Flagstaff, Arizona. The place sits at the dead end of a washboard dirt road that turns to mud when it rains and dust when it doesn't, backed up against thousands of acres of ponderosa pine and red rock canyons. The Navajo on the reservation call Dinebikea ta Honis Gaigu, places the wind forgets to come back. I still wake up tasting pine sap and blood in my mouth. I still check every lock 3 times. And on quiet nights, I still hear my dad's voice calling from somewhere it shouldn't be able to reach. People who knew me before that week say I used to laugh all the time. I don't remember laughing after. My dad, Tom, was a Phoenix firefighter, 24 on, 48 off. That June, he burned a whole week of vacation so we could drive north and help his older brother Ray fix miles of barbed wire and let me be a boy for once instead of a city kid. My cousin Cody was 9 going on 30, all freckles, buzz-cut red hair, and a smart mouth that never quit. Aunt Linda made biscuits so light they floated off the plate and kept the percolator going from dawn till midnight. Uncle Ray was built like a cedar fence post, quiet, chewed Red Man tobacco, and had eyes that had seen things in Fallujah he never brought home in words. We flew into Sky Harbor, rented a silver F-150, and rattled north. The last hour of the drive, there was nothing but pine trees so tall the sky turned into a blue ribbon overhead. When we finally rolled into the yard, gravel popping under the tires, Cody tackled me before I even had the door open. For 2 perfect days, everything was exactly what an 8-year-old thinks summer is invented for. We rode horses until my legs bowed out like a cowboy's. We shot .22s at coffee cans until the barrels glowed cherry red, chased horned toads and built forts out of deadfall. Every night we sat on the porch drinking root beer, me and Cody, or Coors, Dad and Ray, while the coyotes yipped and the Milky Way poured itself across the sky like spilled salt. I slept in the little ground floor guest room with the window cracked 6 inches because the nights were cool and I liked falling asleep to the creak of the old windmill and the whisper of wind in the pines. The night before everything went to hell, I woke up around 1 a.m. to whispering outside my window. It wasn't English. It sounded like the Navajo prayers my dad's buddy from the station sometimes said over the radio. Low, guttural, backwards. I sat up and pulled the curtain aside. Nothing but moonlight on frost. But there were boot prints in the thin frost on the size of dinner plates, leading from the tree line straight to my window and then turning away again. They hadn't been there when I went to bed. I lay back down with my heart hammering and told myself it was a dream. Third night, the world cracked open and never closed again. I woke up around 2 a.m., needing to pee so bad my eyeballs floated. The house was dead quiet except for the grandfather clock ticking like a dying man's heart. Then I heard the footsteps. Crunch. Long pause. Crunch. Pause. Pause. Right outside my window, on the gravel path that circled the house, too heavy for a coyote, too measured for a bear. I sat up and watched a shadow slide across the moonlit curtains. It was tall, way too tall, arms hanging almost to its knees, head sitting crooked on its shoulders like someone had screwed it on wrong. 8-year-olds are fearless idiots. I slipped out of bed in my Spider-Man pajamas, tiptoed through the dark house and eased the back door open just wide enough to stick my head out. Nothing on the gravel. Just moonlight turning everything silver and cold. Then the smell slammed into me. Wet dog, spoiled meat, hot pennies, all mixed together so thick I gagged. It coated the back of my throat like syrup. I stepped off the porch barefoot. The grass was icy. That's when I saw them, 3 jackrabbits laid out in a perfect cross 20 feet from the house. Their bellies were sliced open with surgical neatness, ribs peeled back like petals on a bloody flower. Every organ was gone, just hollow red caves glistening with frost. The dirt around them was scratched into tight, dizzying spirals that hurt my eyes to follow. I was still staring when something moved at the edge of the porch light. It stood right where the light died and the pines began, 8, maybe 9 feet tall, naked, skin the color of sun-bleached bone stretched drum-tight over angles that didn't belong on anything that was ever alive. Arms too long, legs jointed backward like it was trying to walk like a man but couldn't quite remember how. Its head was tilted like a curious dog, and even from 30 yards I could see the eyes were just wet black pits drinking the moonlight. It opened its mouth, way, way too wide, and made a sound that was half cough, half laugh, in a voice that was my dad's voice but dragged through gravel. "Jack, come outside, buddy." Then it turned and ran, flowed, into the trees, limbs folding and unfolding wrong, like a spider wearing a man-suit 2 sizes too small. It didn't make a sound on the pine needles, just vanished between the trunks in 3 impossible liquid strides. I stood there like a statue, heart trying to punch its way out of my chest. The stupid 8-year-old part of my brain whispered, "Go see where it went." I grabbed the little mag light off the porch table, clicked it on, and walked toward the tree line like I was in a trance. 10 steps in, the pines swallowed the moonlight. 20 steps, and the flashlight beam felt like a candle in a cave. The smell was worse here, roadkill baked in July heat. 30 steps, and the ground turned soft with decades of needles. I kept going, telling myself I was brave, telling myself it was gone. Then I heard the cough again, wet, mocking, 20 feet ahead and above me, like it was crouched in the branches looking down. Branches cracked overhead, heavy, deliberate. A shower of needles rained on my head. Something big dropped to the ground behind me with the softest thud. I didn't look back, I just ran. Branches whipped my face, roots grabbed my ankles, but I didn't stop until I hit the porch, slammed the door, locked it, and stood there shaking and crying until Aunt Linda found me asleep on the kitchen floor at sunrise, arms wrapped around a chair leg like it was the only real thing left. Next morning, the family's old blue healer, Blue, was gone. He always slept on the porch. We found his collar hanging from the top strand of barbed wire 5 feet off the ground, soaked in blood but no body anywhere. Ray's face went the color of old paper when he saw it. He muttered, "It's marking territory now," and wouldn't say another word. While we were still looking for Blue, we found the handprint on the barn door, wet, black-red, 6 fingers, claw marks gouged an inch into the cedar. Ray ran his hand over it like he was reading Braille, then walked straight to the gun safe and started loading every rifle and shotgun he owned. He told Cody and me to stay within sight of the house all day. That night, I fell asleep on the couch, waiting for Dad and Ray to finish talking in the kitchen. I dreamed I was back in the woods. The thing was standing 10 feet away wearing my dad's face, but the eyes were black glass and the mouth was too wide. It whispered, "I'm already inside the house, Jake. I've been here the whole time." I woke up screaming. Aunt Linda came running. There were fresh, muddy prints on the kitchen floor, bare feet, too long, too narrow, that hadn't been there when we went to bed. She wiped them up with bleach and told me it was nothing. The next afternoon, Cody and I were inside playing Halo 2 when Dad and Ray came in wearing their war faces. Ray had his Remington 870 with the side saddle stuffed with rifled slugs. Dad had Ray's 270 and a look I'd never seen on him before. They told Aunt Linda they were checking the north pasture and would be back before supper. I begged to go. Ray looked at Dad, shrugged, and said, "Boy's already seen it. Might as well learn what to do when it comes calling." We hiked 4, maybe 5 miles through pine forest that got darker and colder with every ridge. Ray moved like he was clearing houses again, rifle up, eyes everywhere. Dad kept one hand on my shoulder the whole time like he was afraid I'd blow away. Then the smell hit us. Sweet, rotten death so thick it coated our tongues. We crested a rise and saw it. The thing was crouched over a fresh-killed mule deer, face buried to the ears in the rib cage, eating with wet, ripping, chewing sounds that carried on the still air. Its back was to us, skin stretched so tight over the spine I could count every vertebra like piano keys. Steam rose from the guts in the cold. Ray whispered, "On my mark." Both rifles cracked at once. The thing jerked upright, head snapping 180 degrees. Its face was wrong, cheekbones too high, mouth split almost to the ears, black drool hanging in ropes. For one heartbeat, it looked exactly like Uncle Ray. Then the skin rippled like water, and it was the bone-white monster again. It dropped the deer and came for us. Dad threw me downhill while Ray worked the pump. The thing moved like smoke, zigzagging, closing 50 yards in seconds. Ray fired twice. Boom, boom. Dad shoved me behind a fallen log. "Stay down, Jake." We thought it was gone. We started walking back, shaking, thinking we'd won. Then it dropped from the trees right onto Ray's back. Ray screamed. Dad spun and fired twice. The thing leapt off Ray and came for Dad. They fought hand to hand in the snow, Dad stabbing with his knife, Ray trying to get the shotgun up. Blood everywhere. Then it vanished again. We hid in a ravine, panting, listening. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then voices started drifting down from the ridge above us. Dad's voice, Ray's voice, Cody's voice, even Aunt Linda's, all talking at once, calling our names, laughing, crying, begging us to come out. Ray whispered, "Don't listen. Cover your ears." The thing leapt from the ridge straight onto Dad. Claws raked, blood sprayed. Dad went down roaring. Ray got one last slug into its side. It shrieked and vanished. Dad didn't get up. Ray, bleeding out, looked at me and said, "Run, kid. Don't stop." I ran. That night, alone with Aunt Linda and Cody, Aunt Linda finally broke. She sat at the kitchen table chain-smoking, telling us stories from when she and Ray first bought the place. Lights in the woods, calves born inside out, her own mother warning her never to whistle at night because it answers back. She ended with tears running down her face. I told Ray we should have sold this place 20 years ago. Around 3 a.m., I heard dragging sounds. Looked out the window. It was dragging Dad's mutilated body across the yard, eating as it went. I grabbed the shotgun, ran outside, and emptied it into the thing until it finally dropped Dad and fled. Next morning, the yard was empty. Just drag marks. We buried an empty casket. Ray lived, but he limps and won't talk about it. Aunt Linda sold the ranch. Cody won't answer my calls. I'm 28, and I still sleep with a loaded 12-gauge. I still smell pine sap and blood. And sometimes when the apartment is quiet, I hear footsteps on the roof. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. And my dad's voice, patient, coming from just outside the glass. "Jack! Let me in, buddy. It's cold out here." I never answer, but the doorknob rattles anyway. If something tall coughs your father's voice from the dark, don't follow it. Just run. My name is Mara Ellison. I'm 33 now, and the smell of pine sap still makes me gag. I live on the 10th floor of a concrete high-rise in downtown Denver with triple deadbolts on every door, industrial blackout curtains nailed over the windows, and 5 white noise machines running 24 hours a day so the quiet can't slip in and sit on my chest. I still wake up tasting iron and sap, still feel phantom needles under my fingernails, still hear 4 voices whispering my name from the air vents in perfect, impossible harmony when the city goes dead between sirens. In June 2019, I was 29, drowning in 6-figure student debt, and desperate for fieldwork hours that would actually count toward my doctorate. The U.S. Forest Service posted a last-minute contract for a 4-person survey crew to inventory an unmapped roadless area deep in the heart of the Gila Wilderness in southwest New Mexico. 2 weeks, helicopter drop only, no trails, no cell service, triple overtime pay, hazard bonus. I applied before I even finished reading the posting. The team they gave me was small, tight, and, I thought, unbreakable. Diego Diggs Morales was 32, a soil scientist from Tucson who hummed old Selena songs while he worked and could make freeze-dried chili taste like his abuela had slow-cooked it over mesquite all day. He had a laugh that started in his belly and rolled out like summer thunder, and he never met a stranger. He wore the same faded University of Arizona cap every day and kept a tiny silver cross on a chain that he kissed whenever the helicopter lifted off. Leah Park was 27, wildlife biologist, quiet, Korean-American, the kind of person who could look at a scuff in pine needles and tell you how many hours ago an elk passed, which leg it favored, whether it was in rut, and how much weight it had lost since winter. She carried a tiny spiral notebook where she sketched every track she found in perfect, loving detail, and she spoke so softly you had to lean in to hear her. But when she talked about animals, her voice lit up like sunrise on water. Travis Boone was 35, forester, ex-Marine recon, carried a stainless .44 Magnum because the Forest Service won't let me have a grenade launcher, and had a laugh that sounded like gravel poured into a cement mixer. He had a faded Semper Fi tattoo on his right forearm, a scar across his left eyebrow from Fallujah, and a habit of checking the perimeter every single night like we were still waiting for incoming mortars. He called everyone ma'am or sir for the first 3 days until we forced him to stop. I was Mara Ellison, botanist, technically team lead because I had logged the most nights under canvas. But we all knew if things ever went truly sideways, Travis would be the one making the calls. We met at the Silver City airstrip on June 12th, under a sky the color of heated copper. The pilot, a grizzled Vietnam vet named Hank with a handlebar mustache and eyes like burned holes in a blanket, took one look at our 4 overloaded packs and muttered, "You kids sure you want to go in there?" We laughed the way 20-somethings do when we think we're immortal. Hank didn't laugh back. He just chewed his toothpick harder, spat to the side, and told us to keep our bear spray handy and our wits sharper. The Huey rattled us north for 40 long minutes, skimming over endless ridges of dark green that rolled like an ocean frozen mid-wave. Then the pilot banked hard, hovered over a bald granite knob at 9,200 feet, and kicked our packs out the open door like they personally offended him. 14 days, he yelled over the rotor wash, gave us a look that said, "Good luck, you idiots," and vanished south. The silence that rushed in after him was so complete it pressed against our eardrums like deep water. We set up camp in a meadow the size of a football field, ringed by old-growth ponderosa so ancient and massive that 3 people couldn't link arms around a single trunk. The air smelled like vanilla from the bark and distant snow, even though it was summer. Diego immediately started humming Como la Flor while staking tents, the notes drifting up into the branches like smoke. Leah found fresh elk sign before her pack even hit the ground. She crouched, brushed pine needles aside with gentle fingers, and traced the edges of a hoof print, smiling like she'd found an old friend. Travis scouted a perimeter like we were expecting incoming mortars, checking sight lines, wind direction, possible ambush points the way other people check their phones. That first night, we sat around a tiny, carefully banked fire trading the same stories every field crew tells. Worst food, worst bugs, the time someone almost stepped on a rattler, the legendary crew that vanished in the Bob Marshall in '98. Travis swore he saw a mountain lion with no tail on the ridge at dusk, just a silhouette against the alpenglow. We called bullshit and laughed until we cried. The stars were so thick it felt like you could reach up and grab a handful. We went to bed happy, bellies full of rehydrated pasta, and the smug certainty that we were exactly where we belonged. The second morning was crisp and golden, the kind of mountain morning that makes you believe in God as a backpacker. Leah set up 3 camera traps along game trails while the coffee boiled. When we checked the first SD card that night, one of the photos showed a mule deer at dawn staring straight into the lens with eyes that reflected pure white. No pupils, no iris, just blank glowing coins. Leah frowned, zoomed in, said it was lens flare or dust on the sensor, and deleted it without letting anyone else look too long. She tucked the camera back in its case a little too quickly. None of us slept as well that night. Day 3, every single navigation device went insane. Our 2 Garmin's, Leah's fancy Sunto, even Travis's old Lensatic compass all pointed to the same random ponderosa half a mile east of camp. Not magnetic north, not grid north, just that tree. We recalibrated, swapped batteries, held them at different heights, swore at the sky. Nothing changed. Travis walked over, wrapped blaze orange survey tape around the trunk. So the damn thing knows we know which one it is, and we laughed it off as solar interference or some magnetic anomaly and went back to work. That night, the coughing started. It came from every direction at once, wet, barking laughs that bounced off the canyon walls so you couldn't tell distance or direction. It used our voices. First, Diego's exact laugh, the one he makes when he burns the coffee and blames the altitude. Then Leah's quiet shit when she drops something. Then my own voice calling, "Guys, over here," from the darkness just past the firelight. Travis stood up with the .44 in his fist and roared into the night, "Show yourself, asshole!" The coughing just got louder, closer, layered like all 4 of us were out there mocking the one still by the fire. We killed the flames early, banked them to nothing, and slept with headlamps on red mode, knives under our pillows, listening to the forest breathe around us. Day 4. Diego's soil auger vanished. We spent half the morning retracing every step, calling his name like he was a lost dog. We found the auger driven vertically into the trunk of the orange-taped tree, 6 feet off the ground, carbon steel shaft twisted like a pretzel you'd need a hydraulic press to bend. Diego went pale, touched the metal like it might burn him, and just kept repeating, "That's not possible, that's not possible." None of us argued. That same afternoon, Leah found the first handprint. She'd gone alone to check one of her camera traps and came back white as paper, lips pressed so tight they disappeared. When we followed her, we saw it. A wet, black-red handprint on a ponderosa trunk at adult head height. 6 fingers splayed wide, claw gouges an inch deep in the bark like the tree had been soft butter. Leah took photos with shaking hands, the images blurred, but we could all see the print was fresh, the sap was still oozing. Travis ran his own hand over it and said, voice low, "This wasn't a bear." Night 4. The coughing turned intimate. We woke to Leah screaming inside her tent, a high, broken sound I hope I never hear again. There was a handprint on the inside of her rainfly, wet, black-red, 6 fingers, pressed against the fabric as if something had stood over her while she slept, face inches from hers, breathing on the nylon from the inside. Leah wouldn't sleep alone after that. We dragged all 4 sleeping bags into Travis's big Hilleberg and zipped ourselves in like sardines, headlamps on bright, knives out, listening to the forest breathe around us. Day 5, we woke to find every single boot in camp lined up in the center in a perfect square, laces tied together in one continuous, perfect knot that would have taken an hour to tie even if you were trying. No footprints in the soft dirt anywhere. Just long, smooth drag marks leading to and from the orange-taped tree like something had floated. Travis started carrying the 44 openly after that, hammer on an empty chamber, thumb never far from the grip. Night 5, the voices stopped being playful and started screaming. Raw, animal agony in our own voices echoing through the canyon like surround sound from hell. Diego sat bolt upright at exactly 2:13 a.m., clawing at his hands, convinced something was slicing his fingers off one by one. Leah found bloody fingerprints on the inside wall of the big tent that matched Travis's prints exactly, even the tiny scar on his right index finger from shrapnel in Fallujah. I woke up tasting pine needles and copper for no reason, my tongue swollen like I'd been chewing bark. Travis paced the perimeter with the revolver until the sky turned gray, eyes bloodshot, muttering about rules of engagement and enemy movement in the tree line. Day 6. Travis disappeared. He'd gone to take a leak 50 yards from camp just after sunrise, joking about watering the pines. We heard one gunshot, sharp and flat in the cold air. We sprinted toward it with bear spray and the 44, screaming his name. Found his rifle leaning against a tree, barrel still smoking, one round fired straight up into the sky like a signal that never got answered. His boots were there, socks still in them, laces tied to Leah's like they'd been slow dancing in the dark. No blood, no struggle, just gone. Night 6. We dragged all 4 sleeping bags into the big Hilleberg again and zipped ourselves in like sardines, headlamps on bright, knives out. At 3:07 a.m., Leah whispered, "Do you hear breathing?" We did. Slow, patient, coming from Travis's empty sleeping bag we hadn't had the heart to pack away. The fabric rose and fell like lungs working under the nylon. Day 7, we tried to follow the creek out. We followed it for 6 hours. The creek bent back on itself 3 times like a snake eating its own tail and dumped us back at the orange-taped tree every single time. Leah started crying. Quiet, hopeless sobs that scared me more than screaming would have. Diego began humming, "Beady beady bom bom," non-stop, eyes glassy, fingers twitching to the beat. Night 7. The fire wouldn't light. The wood was soaked through with something thick and black that smelled like old blood and wet dog. We burned Travis's spare flannel shirt instead. The flames burned sickly green and smelled like burning hair and melted plastic. Day 8. Leah was gone when we woke. Her sleeping bag was neatly rolled, pack missing, but her boots were still there, laces tied to Diego's spare pair like a cruel joke. We found one of her jade earrings nailed to the orange-taped tree with a porcupine quill driven clean through the lobe-shaped hole, a single drop of blood dried black on the silver post. Night 8. Diego broke completely. He stopped talking, just sat staring at the tree, smiling this small, terrible smile that didn't belong on his face. When I shook him, he looked at me with eyes that weren't focusing right and said, in Leah's soft voice, "It's so quiet when you stop screaming." Day 9, we tried to hike out again. I left Diego sitting against the tree humming. I'm not proud of it. I just ran. I ran until my lungs bled and my legs gave out, until pine needles sliced my palms and my vision tunneled. I don't know how I found the granite knob again, but the helicopter was there early. pilot white-faced, saying he'd gotten a garbled mayday from our emergency beacon we never activated. They found Diego 3 days later sitting at the base of the orange-taped tree, perfectly calm, skinning a pine marten with his bare hands, humming "Beady Beady Bom Bom." He looked up at the searchers and asked, in Travis's slow drawl, "Y'all seen my crew?" They never found Leah or Travis. The official report called it exposure and psychological break. Diego's in a state facility in Albuquerque now. He doesn't speak, just stares at corners and coughs sometimes. Wet, barking laughs that sound like 4 voices braided together. I quit the Forest Service the day I got back. I can't be around trees anymore. I live in concrete and glass and steel. I keep the windows bolted shut and white noise machines in every room. But every spring that tree appears in my dreams, taller, closer, roots crawling under the foundation of my building like veins. And the coughing always gets a little louder. Sometimes when the city is dead quiet and the AC clicks off, I still hear them. 4 voices, layered perfectly, whispering through the vents. "Mara, come outside. It's so quiet in the woods." I never answer, but the tree is patient. And the coughing is learning new words. If every compass on your crew starts pointing to the same tree, burn the contract and run. Don't wait for the voices to finish learning your name. I'm 36 now, and I still can't hear the word August without tasting gun oil and pine smoke. I live in a 1-room apartment above a laundromat in Spokane with the windows painted black and a loaded AR-15. I keep pointed at the door. I haven't been in the woods since 2011. I haven't spoken to another human being in person for 347 days. My name is Caleb Ward. This is the story of the 33 days in the summer of 2011 when 8 of us went into the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness to hunt elk, and only one of us came out with his own face still attached. We called it the last ride. There were 8 of us, all born and raised in the same dying mill town in northern Idaho, where the only choices after high school were the army, the mill, or meth. We picked the woods instead. Me, Caleb, 22, quiet one, could shoot the wings off a mosquito at 200 yards. My brother Jonah, 24, loud, fearless, the one who planned the whole thing. Travis, 23, my best friend since kindergarten, could fix anything with a Leatherman and duct tape. Micah, 22, preacher's kid turned atheist, carried a Bible he didn't believe in anymore. Dustin, 23, the Joker, never met a silence he didn't fill. Shane, 22, ex-lineman, built like a refrigerator with legs. Bo, 21, baby of the group, still had acne and a hero worship crush on Jonah. And Levi, 23, half Shoshone, quiet, the only one who actually knew these mountains, who warned us the loudest and was ignored the hardest. We were going to spend the entire month of August in a valley the Forest Service had closed to the public since the 70s. Locals called it the Quiet Place. Old-timers wouldn't even say the name Levi's grandmother used. They just made the sign of the evil eye and walked away. We thought we were bulletproof. We loaded 2 trucks with enough gear and beer to survive the apocalypse and drove up the old logging road until the road ran out of courage. Then we shouldered 80-pound packs and hiked 12 miles into country that didn't have a name on any map I could find. The plan was simple: hunt elk, drink everything, tell every story we'd been too embarrassed to tell in front of girlfriends or parents, and come home legends. Day 1 was perfect. Bluebird sky, air so clean it hurt to breathe, creek water cold enough to give you an ice cream headache. We found the meadow Levi remembered from when he was a kid, wide, flat, ringed by dark timber, a spring bubbling up in the middle. We set up wall tents in a half circle like pioneers, dug a fire pit big enough to roast a moose, and by nightfall we were drunk on cheap whiskey and the smell of pine smoke, telling lies about girls we'd never kissed and fights we'd never won. That first night we heard the coughing. It started around 2 a.m., wet, barking laughs that rolled down the canyon walls and back up again so you couldn't tell where it came from. We all sat up in our sleeping bags, clutching rifles like kids with teddy bears. Jonah laughed it off as a bear with a cold. Travis said it was probably a fox. Levi didn't say anything. He just stared into the fire with eyes that looked like he'd seen tomorrow and didn't like it. We went back to sleep. We shouldn't have. Day 2 we found the elk. A whole herd bedded down in the meadow at dawn, fat and lazy from summer grass. Jonah dropped a 5-point with one shot behind the shoulder. Travis and Shane got another. We spent the day butchering, laughing, taking pictures like we were Hemingway. By dusk, we had meat hanging in game bags from a meat pole 20 feet high, coolers full of backstraps, and the kind of high that only comes from killing something beautiful with your own hands. That night the meat was gone. Not stolen. Gone. The pole was still there, rope still tied, but the game bags were empty and shredded like something with claws had ripped them open from the inside. The meat wasn't on the ground, it wasn't dragged away. It was just missing, like it had never existed. We told ourselves bears. We told ourselves wolverines. We told ourselves anything but the truth. Day 3, the coughing came back, closer. It used Jonah's laugh first, then Travis's, then mine. We sat around the fire with rifles across our laps until the sun came up, pretending we weren't scared. Day 4, we found the first skin. It was hanging from a lodgepole pine 50 yards from camp, still dripping. A full elk hide, head still attached, eyes milky, tongue lolling, but the body was gone. The hide had been peeled off in one perfect piece, inside out, like someone had turned it like a sock. The inside was scraped clean, not a scrap of meat left. Levi finally spoke. He said his grandmother used to tell stories about things that lived in these mountains before white men came. Things that wore the skins of animals and men like coats. Things that learned your voice by listening to you laugh and then used it to call you out into the dark one by one. We laughed. We were 22. We were immortal. That night the thing laughed back in all our voices at once. We stopped laughing. I'm going to keep writing this until it's out of me or I'm out of words, whichever comes first. If you ever plan a month-long hunt with your best friends, and the locals won't sell you beer, and the elk start disappearing from 20 feet off the ground, and you hear yourself laughing from the dark when you're sitting right by the fire, pack your shit and run, because it already knows your name, and it's patient. Day 5, we woke up to silence. Not normal mountain silence, the kind of silence that has weight. No birds, no wind, no creek. Just the 8 of us breathing inside canvas walls that suddenly felt way too thin. Jonah was the first one out of his tent. He stood there in his boxers, rifle hanging loose in his hand, staring at the meat pole. The game bags were back, full again. But the elk inside weren't the ones we'd killed. They were bigger, older, and every single one had its eyes sewn shut with what looked like human hair. We didn't touch them. That morning we held the first council. We sat in a circle around the cold fire pit like kids at summer camp telling ghost stories, except nobody was laughing. Levi spoke first. He told us his grandmother called them Wediko in Shoshone, skinwalkers, fleshwalkers, things that used to be men but traded their souls for hunger. He said they live in places the sun doesn't like, places where the trees grow too close together and the ground remembers every scream. He said the only way to kill one was to burn it while it was still wearing the skin, and even then sometimes it just moved to the next body. Jonah called bullshit. Travis said maybe it was a crazy hermit. Dustin made a joke about deliverance. Shane told him to shut the fuck up. We voted. 4 wanted to pack out immediately. 4 wanted to stay and figure this out like men. I was the tiebreaker. I voted to stay. I've hated myself every day since. Day 6, we tried to hunt again. We needed meat, and we needed to prove we weren't scared. Jonah, Travis, Shane, and I hiked up the North Ridge at dawn. The forest was wrong. Trees leaned in like they were listening. Every footstep sounded too loud. We didn't see a single living thing. No birds, no squirrels, not even insects. Just us and the smell of something dead that hadn't started rotting yet. Around noon, we found the clearing. It was perfectly round, maybe 50 yards across. Trees forming a wall on every side. In the center was a single ponderosa with no branches until 30 feet up. Hanging from the lowest branch was Dustin. He was naked, hanging by his ankles, arms dangling. His chest had been opened from throat to navel, ribs spread like wings. Everything inside was gone. Just a hollow red cave. His face was still there, eyes wide open, mouth sewn shut with what looked like his own shoelaces. We stood there for a long time. Then Jonah threw up. Travis started praying in this high, broken voice I'd never heard from him. Shane just stared like he was trying to memorize it. I took the picture with my phone because I thought no one would believe us. We cut Dustin down. His body was still warm. We carried him back to camp in silence. That night we burned him. We built the biggest fire we could, poured every drop of whiskey we had left on the body, and lit it. The flames burned green and smelled like copper. While it burned, the coughing started again, closer than ever, circling the fire ring in perfect rhythm with the crackle of fat. Jonah stood up with his AR and emptied a whole magazine into the dark. The coughing didn't even pause. Day 7, we tried to leave. We packed everything in 2 hours, left the wall tents standing, and started hiking south toward the truck. We made it 6 miles before the trail just ended. Not washed out, not overgrown, ended. Like someone had taken an eraser to the forest. 1 minute we were on a game trail we'd walked 3 days earlier. The next minute, there was nothing but wall-to-wall trees older than Jesus, and no sign we'd ever been there. No blazes, no cairns, no footprints. Just gone. We turned around to backtrack, and the trail behind us was gone too. We were in a bowl of trees with no way out. That night, Micah started reading his Bible out loud by firelight. He got to the part in Leviticus about not eating the blood and just stopped. Stared at the page like the words had rearranged themselves. Then he whispered, "It's in the trees." We all looked up at the same time. Every branch above camp had something hanging from it. 8 elk heads, all facing us, all with human eyes. Levi stood up, walked to the edge of the firelight, and pissed a perfect circle around the camp. He said it was something his grandmother taught him. A line the Wedico couldn't cross if it was made with living water. We slept inside the piss ring that night. Day 8, Bo disappeared. He'd gone to take a shit 20 yards from camp. We heard him scream once, high, sharp, cut off like someone put a hand over his mouth. We ran toward it with rifles up, found his Carhartt jacket hanging from a branch, still buttoned, arms tied in knots. Inside the jacket was just skin, Bo's skin, peeled off in one piece like a wetsuit, still warm, still dripping. We burned that too. That night the thing started talking with Bo's voice. Soft, scared, exactly the way he sounded when he was 12, and we found him crying behind the bleachers because his dad hit him. "Please, it hurts. Let me in." We sat back to back in the center of the piss ring with every gun pointed out and didn't sleep. Day 9. Levi tried to kill it. He took Jonah's .300 Winchester Magnum and walked into the trees at dawn saying he was going to end this. We heard one shot. Then nothing. We found the rifle leaning against the same tree where we'd found Dustin. The barrel was bent into a perfect U. Levi's skin was draped over the scope like a jacket, still steaming. We burned that too. That night it wore Levi's face and stood at the edge of the firelight speaking perfect Shoshone. We didn't understand the words, but we understood the tone. It was laughing at us. We stopped burning the bodies after that. There wasn't enough whiskey left. Day 10. The circle closes. We woke up to find the piss ring broken. Not washed away, broken. A perfect boot print, Levi's boot print, size 11, same waffle tread, had stepped right through the line and kept walking toward the fire pit. The print stopped in the middle of camp. Then there was nothing. No return print. Just that one step into our circle like the rule never existed. Jonah lost it. He started screaming at the trees, calling the thing every name he could think of, emptying his AR into the canopy until the bolt locked back on an empty mag. The coughing just rolled down the ridges, laughing in 8 voices now. All of ours. That night, Micah tried to pray. He opened his Bible with shaking hands and started reading Psalm 23 out loud. He got to, "Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death," and the words turned to blood in his mouth. Literal blood. It poured out like someone had cut his tongue. He dropped the Bible in the fire. The pages burned green and screamed in his voice until the flames ate them. We didn't sleep. Day 11, Shane's turn. Shane was the biggest. 6'4", 250, could bench a small car. He went to get water from the spring at dawn. We heard the bucket hit the rocks. Then nothing. We found the bucket floating upside down. Shane's skin was stretched across it like a drum, still wearing his Carhartt jacket, arms hanging empty. The head was still attached, eyes sewn open, mouth sewn shut with baling wire. His body was gone. We stopped going for water after that. Day 12. The replacements begin. We woke up and there were 5 of us around the fire. Me, Jonah, Travis, Micah, and Dustin. Dustin, who we'd burned on day 4. He was sitting there in his same flannel shirt, same stupid grin, roasting a marshmallow like nothing had happened. He looked at us and said, in Dustin's exact voice, "You guys started without me?" Jonah put 3 rounds in his chest before any of us could move. The thing wearing Dustin just looked down at the holes, smiled wider, and the wounds closed like zippers running backward. Then it stood up, cracked its neck the way Dustin always did when he was about to start shit, and said, "My turn." It lunged. Travis got the .44 up and put one through its forehead. The thing dropped. We stood there panting, waiting for it to get back up. It didn't. We burned the body again. This time we used the last of the gasoline. That night it came back wearing Shane's face and dragged Micah into the dark by his hair. We heard the skinning sounds for a long time. Day 13, 3 left. Me, Jonah, Travis. We didn't talk anymore. We just walked in a triangle, rifles up, backs to each other, waiting for the next one to turn. We found Micah's skin nailed to a tree with his own crucifix. The face was still screaming. Travis started crying and couldn't stop. Day 14, the thing learns mercy. It let us sleep. We woke up at dawn to find a perfect breakfast laid out on a flat rock. Eggs, bacon, coffee brewing on a little fire. All of it smelled exactly like our moms used to make. Jonah looked at me and said, "Don't." Travis looked at me and said, "I'm so hungry." He ate. Within an hour his stomach split open like a zipper and something crawled out wearing his face from the inside. Jonah shot it until the rifle clicked empty. Then he turned the gun on himself. I didn't stop him. Day 15. Just me. I walked for 3 days with no food, no water, no sleep. I followed streams that led nowhere. I followed ridgelines that looped back on themselves. I followed my own footprints until they turned into someone else's. On the morning of day 15, I found the trail again. It just appeared. 1 minute I was lost in trees that had no right to exist. The next I was standing on the same logging road we'd parked on 33 days earlier. My truck was there, keys in the ignition, a new note on the dash in my own handwriting. "Thanks for the skins, Caleb. See you next summer." I drove out. I never looked back. The official story is 8 friends went missing in the Selway Bitterroot in August 2011. Search parties found nothing. No bodies, no gear, no trace, except one. A single Polaroid pinned to a tree with a hunting knife at the trailhead. It's a picture of all 8 of us sitting around the fire on night 1, smiling, arms around each other. Except there are 9 people in the photo, and the 9th one is wearing my face. I still have the picture. I still check the locks every night. And every August, when the air turns cool and the pines start whispering, I hear them. 8 voices, perfect, calling from the dark outside my window. "Caleb, come hunt with us. It's so quiet in the woods." I never answer, but the doorknob still turns. My name is Eli Grant. I'm 29, and I haven't slept with the lights off since last summer. I still have the logbook in a fireproof lockbox under my bed, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag because I'm afraid the pages might start bleeding again if they touch anything living. The Rangers never asked for it back. I think they know what's written in it, and they're glad it's not their problem anymore. I took the job because my little sister Riley overdosed in April, and I needed to be somewhere no one could find me. 22 years old, dead in my bathtub with a needle in her arm and my voicemail still playing on her phone. "Hey Ry, call me back. I love you." After the funeral, I couldn't be around people, couldn't be around Silence either, because Silence let me hear her voice asking why I didn't save her. So when the Forest Service posted a last-minute opening for a fire lookout on Storm Peak, Bitterroot National Forest, 90 days, no road access, no cell service, helicopter in, helicopter out, $28 an hour, I signed the contract the same day without reading past the word solitude. They choppered me in on August 1st. The pilot was a quiet man named Hank, with a gray handlebar mustache and eyes like he'd seen every way a forest can kill you and was tired of being surprised. He set the bird down on the narrow catwalk that circled the cab, tossed my 4 Rubbermaid boxes of supplies out the open door like they weighed nothing, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Radio if you need anything, kid, and keep the bear spray where you can reach it in the dark." Then he lifted off and left me standing on a 14-story steel tower bolted to a granite spire at 9,400 feet. Nothing but wind and ravens for company. The cab was one room, 12 by 12, wraparound windows filmed with decades of smoke and sap, a narrow cot against one wall, a desk with the Osborne firefinder bolted to it, a propane stove the size of a lunchbox, a hand-crank emergency radio, and a tiny chemical toilet behind a curtain that smelled like regret. The view was 360 degrees of forever. The Selway Bitterroot Wilderness rolling west until it hit Idaho, the Anaconda Range rising east like broken teeth, and nothing, absolutely nothing, made by human hands except the tower I was standing on. It felt like standing on the roof of the world, and for the first time since Riley's funeral, I could breathe. The first week was everything I'd paid for. I woke with the sun bleeding red over the ridges, made coffee on the little stove while the kettle screamed like a kettle should, glassed the horizon for smokes until my eyes watered, logged weather every hour on the hour in the official notebook they'd given me. I spotted 2 small plumes, both prescribed burns, radioed the coordinates in crisp, professional voice, and felt useful for the first time in years. At night, I read paperbacks by headlamp, wrote letters to Riley on yellow legal pads I never mailed, and listened to elk bugling in the valleys below like lonely ghosts looking for each other. The stars were so thick you could read by them. I started sleeping 6, sometimes 7 hours without waking up screaming. I started thinking maybe the mountain could actually fix me. Then, on the 9th night, the radio woke me up. It was 2:17 a.m. exactly. I'd just finished the hourly weather log, temperature 41, wind calm, humidity 28%, visibility unlimited, when the speaker crackled with the usual static, and then a voice came through clear as if the person was sitting on the cot beside me. "Storm Peak, this is Lookout Zero. Do you copy?" Lookout Zero was the old tower that burned down in the lightning complex of 1978. 45 years ago. No one had used that call sign since before my parents were born. I sat up, rubbed sleep from my eyes, keyed the mic with fingers that suddenly felt too thick. "This is Storm Peak. Identify yourself." Nothing but static for 10 long seconds. Then the voice again, younger, male, shaking like he was trying not to cry. "Please, it's in the tower with me. It's wearing Ranger Bill's face. Don't let it." The transmission cut to dead air. I called dispatch on the main channel, voice cracking worse than I wanted. They told me no one was transmitting on that frequency, that it was probably atmospheric skip from some ham operator in Nevada, told me to log it and go back to bed. I logged it. I didn't sleep. Night after night, the voices kept coming, always at 2:17 a.m., always the same dead frequency, always ending with the same plea. "It's wearing their faces now." I stopped answering the radio entirely, but that didn't matter. The voices found me anyway, seeping through the speaker like smoke even when the power was off, whispering my name in Riley's little girl voice, until I curled on the cot with my hands over my ears and sobbed like a child myself. I started leaving the propane lantern burning all night. The flame turned up so high the glass blackened, because darkness felt like an invitation now. The tower creaked in the wind the way old ships do, metal groaning against granite, and every creak sounded like footsteps climbing the stairs I knew were empty. I lost weight I didn't have to lose. My cheekbones sharpened, my eyes sank, and when I caught my reflection in the window glass, I looked like something that had already started turning into whatever was waiting outside. On the 12th night, I found the first handprint on the glass. I'd been sitting at the desk with the shotgun across my knees, staring out at the black ocean of trees, when the temperature in the cab dropped so fast my breath fogged. I turned the lantern up and there it was, a perfect palm print on the north window, the one facing the sheer cliff no human could ever climb, 12 stories straight down to jagged rock. The print was too large, fingers too long. and it was on the outside of the glass, still dripping, as though something had pressed its hand there seconds ago and then simply let go and fallen, or flown. I took a picture with my phone, hands shaking so badly the image blurred, and when I zoomed in on the reflection, I saw a shape standing directly behind me in the cab, tall, thin, head tilted wrong, wearing what looked like a coat made of shadows. I spun around with the shotgun up and there was nothing, just the cot and the black windows and my own reflection staring back with eyes too wide and too dark. I didn't sleep again for 3 days. By the 14th night, the radio had stopped letting me transmit at all. I could hear dispatch fine, their bored voices talking about football scores and whose turn it was to bring donuts. But when I keyed the mic and screamed for help, they acted like they couldn't hear a thing. That was the night the voices switched to Riley's. She sounded exactly 8 again, the summer before everything went wrong, the summer she still believed I could fix anything. "Eli, it's cold up here. The door's locked. Let me in, please." I smashed the radio with the fire axe until it was nothing but wires and broken plastic, but the voice kept going, coming from the walls now, from the floorboards, from inside my own skull. I sat in the middle of the cab with the shotgun in my mouth for a long time that night, finger on the trigger, tasting gun oil and pine smoke, whispering sorry to a sister who wasn't there to hear it. On the 15th morning, the trapdoor at the bottom of the tower was standing wide open. I know it was locked because I'd checked it myself the night before, spinning the combination dial 3 times the way Hank showed me. I stood at the top of the stairs with the shotgun and called down into the dark, voice cracking like a teenager's. No answer, just the wind whistling through the steel like a flute. I descended 1 step at a time, counting them out loud to keep from losing my mind, until I reached the bottom. The padlock was hanging open, hasp snapped clean in half like it had been cut with bolt cutters made of something stronger than steel. There were footprints on the metal stairs going up, bare feet, long, narrow, toes too separated, leading all the way to the cab. I followed them back up with the shotgun ready, sweat freezing on my skin even though the sun was out. The prints stopped at the trap door. Then they kept going, across the ceiling, upside down, like something had crawled the last 20 feet on all fours without touching the stairs again. I stood there staring at the ceiling for a long time, feeling gravity forget which way was down. That same afternoon I found the logbook. I was ripping up floorboards looking for anything I could burn if I had to torch the place, and there it was wedged under the subfloor like it had been waiting for me. Leather cover gone soft with age, pages yellow and curling, handwriting from the 1970s in faded government ink. Every entry was the same, day after day, year after year, written by different hands but always the same words. 2:17 a.m., heard voices on radio. 2:17 a.m., saw handprint on glass. 2:17 a.m., it's in the tower with me. 2:17 a.m., it's wearing their faces now. The last page, dated August 23, 1978, was written in blood that somehow still looked wet. The handwriting was frantic, letters slanted like the writer was running out of time. "If you're reading this, burn the tower. Don't let it learn your name. It's patient. It's always patient." I read it 3 times, then folded the page into my pocket like a suicide note. That night, I tried to burn the tower. I waited until the wind died completely, poured every drop of Coleman fuel, every can of bear spray propellant, every bottle of rubbing alcohol, even the little airline bottle of Bacardi 151 I'd saved for my birthday, over the cot, the desk, the logbook, the walls, everything that would burn. I stood in the middle of the cab with the emergency road flare in my shaking hand, heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst, and I whispered to whatever was listening, "Come on, you bastard, let's see you wear fire." I scratched the flare. It hissed red, then white. I dropped it. The flames went green. Not normal green like pine needles burning. Sick, chemical green like antifreeze on fire, the color of old poison. The temperature shot up so fast the glass fogged instantly. The logbook pages curled and screamed in voices I recognized. Riley's, the woman from the radio, the child, Ranger Bill, all of them layered together until it sounded like a choir drowning. The Osborne firefinder spun in frantic circles like it was trying to find a smoke that was already inside the room with me. The glass didn't break. It just turned black from the inside, stroke by stroke, like invisible hands painting it with tar. I ran for the trap door. It was locked from the outside. I beat on it with the axe until the handle snapped in half and the blade rang off the steel. The flames didn't spread like normal fire. They crawled, deliberate, forming perfect handprints on every surface, leaving soot that looked like claw marks. I could feel the heat through my boots, through the floor, through my bones. I climbed out the emergency hatch onto the catwalk instead. The tower was glowing, 14 stories of steel turning orange, then white, the paint bubbling and peeling like skin. I started down the outside ladder, hands burning on the rungs, lungs full of smoke that tasted like copper and sap. Halfway down, I looked up. Every window had a face pressed against it from the inside. Riley, cheeks still round with baby fat, eyes black and endless. The Minnesota couple I'd waved to on the trail camera, mouths sewn open in perfect O's. The through hiker, beard dripping something darker than blood. Hank the pilot, mustache still perfect, smiling with teeth that weren't human. They all waved goodbye with hands that ended in 2 long fingers, skin sliding like loose gloves. I hit the ground running and didn't stop for 12 hours. I ran until my lungs bled and the world turned gray at the edges, down scree slopes that tore my palms to ribbons, through Devil's Club that left thorns in my arms like accusations, across snowfields that never melted even in August and burned my bare feet until they went numb. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew that if I stopped, the coughing would catch me. The tower burned behind me for hours, a green star on the ridge painting the clouds the color of infection. And every time I looked back, I saw those faces in the windows waving with hands that weren't theirs, smiling with mouths that didn't fit the skulls underneath. I ran until the sun came up and the tower was just a black skeleton against the sky. And then I ran some more because I could still hear Riley's voice on the wind saying my name like a lullaby. I found a Forest Service road by accident, stumbling out of the brush like something the mountain had spat out. There was a green pickup parked on the shoulder, keys in the visor the way rangers sometimes leave them for each other. I drove barefoot, bleeding on the pedals, until I hit a town with 1 gas station and cell service. I called my mom collect from the payphone outside the store, voice shredded, and told her to come get me because I couldn't remember how to be human anymore. She drove 8 hours without stopping. When she hugged me in the parking lot, I flinched so hard she started crying. They found the tower 3 days later. Nothing left but the steel bones standing naked on the spire, every shard of glass, every scrap of wood, every page of the logbook. Gone. Like the fire had eaten only what it wanted and left the rest to remember. The official report said lightning strike. No one mentioned the green flames or the faces in the windows. Hank the pilot retired the next week and won't answer his phone calls. The Forest Service pulled the listing for Storm Peak and marked the tower condemned, do not rebuild. I still have the picture I took of the handprint on the glass. Sometimes when my phone screen goes dark, I can see someone standing behind me in the reflection. Tall, thin, head tilted wrong, wearing a coat made of shadows and faces that almost look like mine. I don't look in mirrors anymore. Every year on August 23rd, at exactly 2:17 a.m., my phone rings with an unknown number. I never pick up. But the voicemail is always the same every time, in Riley's 8-year-old voice, soft and sweet and impossible. Storm Peak, this is Lookout 0. Do you copy? Then the coughing starts. And it never stops. If you ever get offered a fire lookout job on a tower with no history before 1978, say no. Some places remember every scream, and they're still hungry.